back to the Infinite Rabbit Hole podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy, and today we're going back to Portlock, but not without a guide. Before we get to that, let's go ahead and introduce my co-host of the night, Jake. What's up, man?
Me and Whitney spent all day at a local pumpkin patch thing. It's like 100-acre pumpkin festival. You pick produce type thing. It was just a blast. We were over there, and man, I got home and I was this close to passing out, and then my alarm went off to get up, and I was like, oh, right. And I saw that you had sent me the the Zencaster link, and I was like, yep, it's that time. So here I am. But yeah, it was a good day. It was a lot of fun.
Good stuff. Also, you can come on over and go talk about some killer Sasquatch in the middle of bumfuck nowhere, Alaska.
Yeah. No,
I'm ready
stoked.
for it.
Sounds
Me
great.
too. Like I said in the last episode, today is our tomorrow. This is after a week for you guys. We get to talk to the man who wrote the book, who I did most of the research off of. Larry Beans Baxter. How you doing, man?
Hello.
So, welcome to the Infinite Rabbit Hole.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you being here. Let's first start off with who is Larry? Who's Larry Baxter?
Well, unlike Jake, I got a nap today. I don't know. I've had an interesting life, man. I was born and raised in Kentucky. Joined the military in my early 20s. Said I don't care where the Army sends me as long as it's nowhere cold, and straight to Alaska I went. But the joke was on them because I actually liked it. I had no frame of reference for a lot back then. This was before the internet, boys and girls, if you can imagine such a thing.
Ooh, goodness gracious.
Well, there was internet, but not like it is today. And my only frame of reference for Alaska was northern exposure.
Oh,
and I remember like getting off the plane and getting in the cab to go to the post and seeing like a Pizza Hut and, like normal, like franchise stores. And I was like, oh, thank God. Cause I thought I was going to northern exposure.
Right.
And most of the military bases up here have some civilization around them, Anchorage, Fairbanks, something like that. So I saw that and I was like, okay. Cause I wasn't sure quite what I was getting into. But it ended up, really, I fell in love with it. Growing up in rural Kentucky, the wildness of it didn't really bother me that much. I do well in small towns. I enjoy small towns. And I got out of the military, went back home for a spell and came back. My wife is from Alaska. She was born and raised here. And we just, as soon as we got out of the Army, we went back to Kentucky, and we were there for a couple of years, and we're just like, we got to go back. Got to.
Missed it, huh?
Huh? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And so we came back up here. I'd always been interested in law enforcement. I got a job on St. Paul Island, which is, if you ever watch The Deadliest Catch, it's one of the places where they offload the crabs sometime. And it's like one of the most remote places on the planet. It's on a little tiny island way out in the Bering Sea, like not too far from Russia. Oh. And I did 3 years out there as a police officer there. Kind of back then, you had to do your time. You had to go work for like a rural department or a place out in the bush, as they call it. And they would send you to the academy, get you certified. And then after some time with that, you would go work at a bigger department, a more a place on the road system, they call it, like a city that's connected to the road that you can drive to. So I did 3 years out on St. Paul Island and got hired at Homer Police Department and been here ever since. And just retired from there in 2021. And now I write books and go on podcasts, talk about Bigfoot, and occasionally look for Bigfoot.
The good stuff.
Nice.
Yeah. So speaking of Bigfoot, man, how'd you get into Bigfoot?
Well, I've always been interested in it. Ever since I was growing up in Kentucky. I've always been a reader. I love to read. Read a lot of monster books growing up. And it's always been something I really thought was cool. But again, I never really, it's actually kind of funny how Kentucky is kind of like in the Bigfoot spotlight now. Mm-hmm. And it seems like there's a lot of stuff going on there. Growing up there, I didn't find it to be that at all. It was just home. There were a few strange tales and mostly ghost stories, stuff like that. No real like cryptids to speak of. And then I got up here to Alaska, and my interest in it kind of came and went through the years. I would read a book occasionally every now and then, like Lauren Coleman's book on Bigfoot, stuff like that. And up here, it kind of finally hit me like, I'm up here. There's Bigfoot up here. Like, I'm finally in a place where I can look for them. And that's kind of where it took off. I finally started getting out and going to places where I heard there'd been sightings and interactions. And that's kind of how it took off. I started just getting out in the woods and hiking around and looking for strange things. And sometimes I found them.
Yeah, that Bigfoot True Story of Apes in America. Great book. Yep. Fantastic book. Love it. Lauren Coleman's my claim to fame is that he answered one of my DMs one time to decline coming on the show. I was like, you know what? It's good enough.
I've been to his museum, but he wasn't there. So
no.
Yeah, I missed him by the guy working there was like, "Oh, you just missed Lauren," and I was like, "Well, that doesn't do me any good."
Well, who are you? Bye. So the topic of conversation is Portlock. How far exactly are you from Portlock?
From where I'm sitting right now, I'm about 40 miles away.
Whoa.
Wow. Yeah,
that's nuts.
It's that way.
Oh man. And so in your book, you outlined 2 expeditions. Has there been more?
Not by me. We were actually planning a third. We were going to go in, oh geez, what year was it? 2021 or 22. And we weren't able to get permission to go back out there. They had granted it to a production company to film a show out there. So
that's that new show that they have coming out, probably.
Yeah, it's the Alaska Killer Bigfoot show.
Yeah.
And we had, we faced a lot of criticism. Like, you guys should go out there longer. You should take more people. You should do this. You should do that. And finally, we're like, well, let's do it. We were going to go out there and spend a couple of weeks and actually like camp out and stay in the town and do expedition. We were going to try and get up to this lake that's up there that we really want to check out. And we were denied the permission to go back, so it didn't happen.
Sweet. Jake, you got any questions before we jump into his expeditions?
Yeah, I mean, actually, that was a question that came up yesterday. We were talking about this, and I was like, well, so America is absolutely covered with ghost towns, right? With people left for various reasons. And this circumstance could have been the fire, right? It could have been the killer Bigfoot, whatever, a combination of both, right? A lot of times it was the resources dried up if they're mining towns, whatever it was. And you'd think that just because they're empty that you can just go up in there, right? But someone always owns that property, and you're always going to get slammed for trespassing. And so the question was like, who did y'all have to ask for permission, and how did that whole thing go about?
So it's native owned land. It's owned by the English Bay Corporation, which is a native tribe corporation. Mm-hmm. And I didn't really have that much. Stephen is the one that arranged it and took care of it all. Stephen Major. And he took care. From what I understand, it took him a long time to convince them to let him go in.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And they kind of gave him like, okay, you've got permission for, you can do it for X amount of years or whatever. And that time had lapsed. We'd done the 2 X. It's probably 2 years because we went back back twice. So then that time had lapsed. So he went back to renew that permission, and they declined.
Right.
And I don't know the particulars of it. I don't know if he had to give them money, or if he just wrote a letter and they said yeah, sure, or what. I know he was very. He told me he had to be very, when he went and asked permission, he basically had to say, we're going to be really respectful. We're going to, really take care of the land. We're going to leave it, just like we found it, and be really respectful. And then, we saw what happened with it with the people that went in there the last time. So It's kind of funny how I feel like they were basically quite the opposite of what we did.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the British show, right?
No, it was I'm actually not sure. They actually reached out to me and asked me if I would participate, and I kind of got a weird vibe about it, and I declined, and I'm kind of glad I did.
Oh, you're talking about the new one?
Yeah, the new show.
Yeah.
Yeah, we went. The first time we went out was for an independent production that Steven produced, the In Search of the Port Chatham Hairy Man. That was 2018. And then we went back in 2019 with the Travel Channel for the Alaska Triangle series. And I think we're like the second episode of the first season or something. And those guys were pretty cool. You know, we weren't sure. We basically told them like, hey, we're going to go do our thing. We're not going to like pretend or fake anything. We're going to do, you know, honest research. We don't want to like, I mean, I understand it's a TV show. Sometimes the camera's not running, something happens. You have to, you know, reenact things. Like I get it. That's just the nature of the business. I mean, I do that sometimes when I'm out, you know, filming my own YouTube videos. I'm like, oh man, that would have been great for the camera. Well, let me do it again. You know, I'm not lying. I'm just, you know, the camera wasn't on. But again, there's that. And then there's like, man, nothing's going on. Well, let's say something's going on, you know, let's fake stuff. We're not about that. And that was one of my caveats that I told Steven when we went out there the first time, especially with me working in law enforcement. I'm like, dude, I'm not going to go out there and like pretend that there's Bigfoot all over the place, you know, or we're being like attacked or something like that. And he's like, no, I understand. We're going to do it serious. It's going to be actual like research. And, you know, we're documenting what's happening to us out there. We're not going to make anything happen.
Right.
And
you're not having someone stand off camera and bang some trees and with sticks and throw rocks at
exactly.
you.
And you know, we get criticized for that sometimes because I read like the comments and people are like, oh, this is boring. Nothing's happening. And stuff does happen. I mean, we heard stuff, we found tracks, stuff happened. It just, I don't know what the difference is. I guess because we don't like go into the camera like, they're here, you know, they're going to get us, you know, I mean, but I mean, maybe that's the difference. Maybe if we were just a little bit more dramatic about the stuff that did happen, maybe people would be like, this is the greatest thing ever. But people are like, oh, this is boring. Nothing happens. And I'm like, we found just as much as any other Bigfoot show on television that finds, or that happens. You know, we were hearing things, as soon as we got there and we started walking around, we heard this like thump, thump, thump.
Yeah.
And, you know, like just, it seemed like it was always just ahead of us. Like it wouldn't let us like get on top of it to see what it was. And what was it? A Bigfoot, a bear, a moose? I don't know. That's the problem with Alaska is there's a lot of big animals up here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But you know, stuff happened. And, you know, Mary Beth that was with us, she saw, she said she saw something peek around from behind a tree. And, you know, it's important. She was not a Bigfoot person. You know, she wasn't somebody that was really into Bigfoot. And Steven kind of picked those people to come out there with us because they weren't Bigfoot people.
Right.
You know, he didn't want people that were in the community and that were well known. He wanted people that were just interested in the legend of Port Chatham.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, she said she saw something peeking around a tree. Well, that's something that a lot of people say they see in regards to Bigfoot. So it's kind of interesting that somebody that wasn't really embedded in the community or really popular, you know, really kept up with Bigfoot behavior is describing stuff that people see quite a bit with Bigfoot sightings.
So let's start it off with the first expedition and the first thing you talk about in your book, which is this little shed that you found a whole bunch of junk around that was a little bit too far away from the shore to be just washed up. Can you kind of walk us through that and what was going through your head? Like, where do you think this all this junk came from?
Yeah, that situation is funny because we found it and we're like, oh, that's kind of weird, but it wasn't really that big of a deal. We're like, oh, look, there's a sign of civilization. We must be near the town site. And then we kept going. And then later on, actually, after we'd gotten back, it kind of struck me as to how weird that was. I was like, wait a minute, how did that stuff get up there? Because this is way up high on a cliff face, you know, kind of far back, you know, not right up on the edge. and there was some like plastic and like modern stuff there, stuff
Right.
that, the town was abandoned in 1950. There was stuff up there from, not necessarily modern day, but modern, the 80s, 90s, maybe even. And it was just kind of clustered around like a little pile. I think is there a picture of it in a book? I don't remember. I've got a picture of it somewhere.
No.
Yeah. And I just remember thinking like, oh, well, look at there, even out here in the middle of nowhere, there's like litter. And then afterwards I was thinking about it and I'm like, why is all that stuff there? It was just kind of like a little collection, just like a little pile of stuff. And a lot of it was post dated 1950 when the town was abandoned. There was like maybe the back of a old stereo or something up there. Mm-hmm. And to be up there where it would like had to have been carried, there's no way it like washed up there on the tide or anything, not as high up as we were. It's one of those things where after the fact I got to thinking about it and I was like, man, that's kind of weird. Almost like maybe it did wash up on the beach, but then somehow it got carried up there. I don't remember seeing any claw marks or teeth marks or anything on it. I know bears will sometimes like to chew on plastic, but just it was one of those things where it didn't really hit me how strange it was until after the fact. Almost like we stumbled on like a little collection point for knickknacks or something.
So I do want to take that back. Actually, on page 115, you do have a picture of it. But just to kind of talk about that a little bit, right? So this area has been abandoned for quite a while. And like you said, there's a good chance some of this was washed up or, taken in there from someone or something. Basically, it was brought up there by man or beast, right? It's got to be one or the other.
Yeah, it didn't wind up there naturally.
Right. I mean, is it in an area where you think a hermit could survive?
Well, I mean, it's Alaska. It kind of depends on your skill level. I mean, you can drop people off in a lot of different places and with varying results. Some of them will be dead within, hours, days, and some of them could thrive. I mean, it was within walking distance of the shore for sure. I mean, someone could have got there on a boat and been hanging out there and had that stuff there for whatever reason, I guess. It was kind of in an odd spot to be like a camp or maybe a spot for somebody to build a cabin because it was on top of the bluff there and it wasn't that far back in. So it wasn't super protected from the elements and the weather and the wind. But yeah, I don't know. Again, like I said, it didn't hit me exactly how strange what I was looking at was until after the fact. And then I was like, wow, that was a lot of post 1950 stuff just kind of piled up around that area.
Yeah.
And it was just weird. I mean, maybe somebody was up there in the 90s or something and was like, I'm going to build a cabin up here, and then for whatever reason abandoned it. But yeah, even that's a strange explanation. I mean, they lugged it up there a pretty good ways.
Well, those that are familiar with Bigfoot, right? We have a pretty healthy amount of people who listen to this that are familiar with Bigfoot, especially the act of gifting. Gifting is something that I wouldn't say historically, but a lot of people rely on that as a form of communication or a form of truce between themselves or something along their property, or if they know where a family of these big feats could possibly be. And then there's also the stories of them just taking stuff. They are definitely thought to be fans of trinkets. So I could imagine a stereo might be a trinket that they'd be interested in.
Yeah, I think anything that's not naturally, like any metal, plastic, something that maybe makes a different sound than they're accustomed to. You often hear about them like tapping on metal and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I think something that maybe they're just not familiar with that they can pick up and carry, they might actually just be fascinated with and take it with them because they've never seen it. It smells kind of weird, and when you hit it, it makes a weird sound that I've never heard before. So I'm just going to hang on to this for a little bit till I get bored with it or whatever.
Yeah. So moving on a little bit, let's talk about this this big steaming pile of poop you found.
Oh yeah, I call it the 10-5 turd. We're walking along, and I can't remember who exactly. I don't remember who saw it the first time, but it was a big piece of crap. And I'm not exaggerating. It was about that big around. And we had
That's a big dump.
we had the production assistant kid that was he was the brother of the cameraman. His name was Toad. That was his nickname. My name was, we had Beans and Toad on the same expedition. It was, what are the odds, huh? And we had him put his foot up, his extra tough boot up next to it. And I took a picture of that with his boot up to it for scale. And he wore a 10.5 boot. And so we call it the 10.5 turd because it was about as long as his boot. And
that's hilarious.
We thought, we toyed with the idea of collecting it. I actually had some baggies that we could have taken a sample with. But from, my law enforcement career, I had been told, like, you can't really get DNA from poop. It's just not, maybe if you're lucky and you like swab the outside of the poop, maybe you might be able to get some like skin cells or something as it came out. But generally that's not something that happens. So I'm thinking like, okay, well, we're not going to get DNA from it. So what's the point? And later on, again, after the fact, I was talking at a conference and a gentleman came up to me that had been a veterinarian. He goes, if you'd have brought that poop in and had a veterinarian look at it, they could tell you what kind of parasites were in it. And I was like, yeah, so? And he said, well, he said, if there were parasites in there that were only found in primates, that would really be something. And so I was like, well, the next time I find some strange poop, I'm going to pick it up. And I did, but not at Port Chatham. But that was a lesson. I did not know that. So poop is not so good for DNA, but it wouldn't hurt to have it examined for parasites. If you could find something that is only found in primates, then you're either looking at human poop or a North American undiscovered primate poop.
Yeah, that would have been very interesting. And to have a big old log coming out of a human like that, I don't think that's
call
possible.
Guinness.
Yeah,
that's a world record right there.
If somebody had passed that, if a man had passed that, I think I would have heard him here at my house.
Ryan Reynolds here for, I guess, my 100th Mint commercial. No, don't. I mean, honestly, when I started this, I thought I only have to do like 4 of these. I mean, it's unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month. How are there still people paying 2 or 3 times that much? I'm sorry, I shouldn't be victim blaming here. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/save. Whenever you're ready.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
This episode is brought to you by United Airlines. When you want to make the most of your vacation, book with United. They're an airline that cares about your travels as much as you do. United is transforming the flying experience with Bluetooth connectivity, screens, power at every seat, and bigger overhead bins to help fit everyone's bag. And with their app, you can skip the bag check line, get live updates, and more. Change the way you fly. Book your next trip today at united.com.
This episode is brought to you by Jira. Jira is the only project management tool you need to plan and track work across any team. So if you're a team of developers, Jira better connects you with teams like marketing and design, so you have all the information you need in one place. Plus, their AI helps you knock out the small stuff so you can focus on delivering your best work. Get started on your next big idea today in Jira.
So let's talk about during the same expedition, you found some tracks on the shore, and it was kind of hard to tell exactly what they were because water had obviously rushed up over them with the tide and everything. But then you followed that area into the tree line. You found something really cool. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So I think it was kind of towards the end of the expedition, or maybe the second day. I don't remember. We had put in on this little kind of a soft rock, beach, and we could see indentations, disturbance in the rocks there on the beach. And we get out, and it looked like something had walked down to the beach and then turned around and walked back into the tree line. And I'm following that. I couldn't tell what it was. I couldn't tell if it was animal or human or Bigfoot. I just couldn't tell what it was. I could just see that something had walked around the beach there.
Mm-hmm.
And I started following it back up into the tree line. And once we got into the tree line a little bit, the ground there is really not good for tracks. It's really soft and mossy and spongy. And it's kind of funny because, you can, I'm a big guy and I'm like jumping up and down and you can't hear me. You could really sneak up on somebody in some terrain like that. And I'm looking down and I come up on this area where it looks like a human footprint kind of pressed into the moss a little bit. And I was like, holy crap. And I measured, I think it was about 14 inches or so. I had the other guys, I'm like, come here, look at this. And it was almost like a Rorschach test. It was like some of the guys looked down and were like, holy crap. And other people were there like, I don't see it. Where is it? And then kind of like when I would point it out, they'd be like, oh, okay, now I see it. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't a great track. It wasn't pressed far enough into the moss for that we could have cast it. But it was a pretty human-shaped 14-inch track. I mean, I guess it's possible. Maybe it could have been like a double-step bear track. There wasn't enough definition to it to tell. But it kind of, that plus the legends around the place and some of the stuff that we'd experienced up to that point, it really kind of put me on edge as to where like, man, there could be really something to this. This is a pretty impressive-looking footprint.
Jake, I sent you that picture yesterday.
Yeah, it was nuts. It reminded me of that one that I sent you a picture of when I was over in Dinky Creek on a camping trip. Like we were doing a camping trip and it was all night, just the tree knocks and yelling, and the people in the next campsite over maybe half a mile away, because it was kind of like get in there and take up your spot. Really, really wooded area. It was really pretty, but they were up there blasting their music, screaming and shooting guns and getting all wild and stuff like that. And then all these crazy tree knocks start happening and then really loud yells. And then everyone up there just shut the heck up. They all turned off their music and they were just like, what the heck is that? Right. And it was just hours of this, just going and going and going. I don't think I took a single breath the entire time. That was fun. And then, I talked this big game of, I'm not scared of nothing. Yeah, no, I was, if I had to go, I'd be filling up my pants. But we ended up waking up the next morning. All the adults were all talking about it. It was my older brother and all of his friends he grew up with. So everyone's all talking about it. And unfortunately, we had a bunch of kids with us. And so everything up there is really dusty. And so it's great for leaving footprints. But the kids up there are just running around, kicking all the dirt everywhere and whatever. So you can't get a clear print of anything except for little shoes, right? But behind my tent was just this monster bear footprint, right? And not bear, but bear, right? Yeah, human footprint. Man, it was big, right? And I took a picture of it. And I waited until we got down into Shaver Lake where we actually had cell phone signal. I sent it to Jeremy. I was like, dude, check this out. And then on the other side of that, in the direction of travel, it had gone through this dirt pit where all the kids were kicking up everything, right? So I was like, well, that would have been nice. And then in direction of travel on the other side of that was where the dust stopped, and it was pretty heavy pine needles and stuff. And then it just kind of went through there. And it was like, well, but it was the only one. And I sent him this picture and he was like, holy crap. I was like, and I told him what was going on and everything like that. I was like, it's my first not seeing something, but first experience hearing something like that. It was pretty wild. And I was just like, all right, maybe there's something to all your crazy claims. Yeah.
I immediately bought him a casting kit and sent it to him.
Yeah. Yeah. I looked at that picture. He sent me that picture and I was just like, man, that looks just like what I saw, It's crazy. It's just like, yeah, I guess it's possible that a guy was running around barefoot with, 14 or 16 inch feet. Like I knew a kid in high school that had monster feet like that, but he was also 6'9", right? I was like, but how many people are there, especially in the middle of nowhere, just walking around?
Not many without a ton of hair all over the body.
Yeah, right.
But no, this is
mid-tarsal breaks and whatnot.
Yeah, this is an awesome picture. I mean, you look at this and yeah, like you said, it could possibly be one of those double prints from bears, but you could tell how the depth gets deeper as it gets to right where the hinge of the toes meet, like that really fatty part of the foot.
Yeah. Well, it seems like it's, bears kind of have almost like a triangle shaped foot,
yeah,
like that. And this looks almost more like human, where the toes are structured, at an angle.
Right.
Right.
It's clearly a right foot.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, this is nuts. I use this on the thumbnail for the episode. So if anybody's listening to this right now and they can see the thumbnail of the show or of this episode, it is the picture on the bottom left. Larry, I'll send it to you. I used all your pictures for you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
All the pictures.
We had some strange, like we're walking through and there's just blueberries everywhere,
Mm-hmm.
and it was kind of weird how we were walking through this area and there's these blueberry bushes that have obviously just been massacred by bears. I mean, they're empty blueberry. Maybe there's a blueberry here or there, bear poop all over the place. We certainly found some bear poop. Definitely. I mean, no, like that's bear poop. No question about it. And all these berry bushes are just almost picked clean. And then it was kind of weird because it was almost like we went through this invisible barrier and there's just full berry bushes with nothing taken off. We actually we were walking by and, eating as we're walking, like right off the bush, and that area, there were no bear tracks, no bear poop. The bushes hadn't been touched. And I said later on, I was like, man, it's almost like we passed through this invisible barrier where the bears don't go. And there's one of my favorite Bigfoot stories. It's more of an anecdote than anything. It's in Raincoast Sasquatch by Robert Alley. If you hadn't read that, you need to check it out.
I just ordered it.
Where there's a gentleman on a boat and he's staring at a shoreline and he sees a bear walk out on a huge brown bear, walk out on the beach, stop, sniff, turn around, walk back. And then on the other side of the beach, like stage left, he sees a Bigfoot walk down the beach. The Bigfoot stops, sniffs the air, turns around, walks back. Almost like the bear and the Bigfoot were like, oh, no, we're going to avoid each other. And ever since I read that story and then my experience in Port Chatham with the invisible barrier where the berries get eaten over here and not over here, I've always had the theory that maybe they just respect each other's territory. They don't really, there's a line they're not going to cross. They're not going to go over there and eat those berries because maybe that's Bigfoot's territory. I don't know.
It's got to be a pretty even fight between the two of them. They probably learned the hard way a couple times.
Yeah, I don't think there's a ton of interactions between them that turn violent. I think most of the time they probably just go the other way because it's not worth the expenditure of energy for either party unless they're really hurting for a meal or something.
Yeah. So let's talk about this infrared hit. That's pretty interesting, man.
So that was not too far from where we found the track. That was the area that Steven, he's dramatic. He liked to give these places because we're in Port Chatham, but we don't know what we'll go to these various places and we're like, well, what do we call this area over here? And Steven was really good about we'll call this the Valley of Death, So he, for whatever reason, I don't even think it was a valley. He liked to call that area the Valley of Death, where we found the track. And then, we got the thermal hit, he's like, that's a lot of, there's stuff going on over there. We'll call that the Valley of Death. So this was in that same area. And we're walking along and, I was walking with the female in the party and she stopped and she's like, man, I feel like we're being watched. And I was like, yeah, I kind of feel a little weird too. Cause the whole time I'm there, like I've got a pretty good vibe going on. Like it's creepy and it's spooky. It's kind of like, Jurassic Park, but I was never like, oh, I'm scared. Like I never really got creeped out too bad. It was just like walking through, a normal dark forest, And so I pull out my thermal. I had a FLIR Scout, which is like at the time, it was like the cheapest thermal you could buy. And it's supposed to have a range of like 100 yards. And I can assure you it does not. And I'm scanning this tree line and I see I had black, I like black is hot. I know some people go the opposite way and they want red hot. Or red hot or white hot, but I like black hot. And I'm scanning and I see this figure just inside the tree line, kind of doing this. It's raising its arms up and down and it looks it's a black silhouette. That's all I can see of it. And it looks, I swear to God, it looks like Donkey Kong, the video game character. And, it's one, they call it the curse of Bigfoot, like we're there. We're there because of the stories about Bigfoot. Like we're there to do a documentary called In Search of the Port Chatham Area Man. We're looking for Bigfoot. I look through my thermal scope. I see something that looks like a gorilla. And what do? I go, do you see that? And hand the thermal scope off to somebody else. And I think I handed it to Toad. And, he was a younger kid. He was like in his early 20s, I think, at this time, or maybe not even. And I'm like, look over there. What do you see? And he looks through the thermal unit and he goes, it looks like a dude. And I'm like, right? And I can't see anything with my naked eye. I just, it's kind of getting late in the evening. I think it was filmed about 6:30 p.m., something like that. I think the timestamp's on the video. And of course, at this time, Toad still has my thermal. I think maybe he passes it to Reed or somebody else. I don't remember. And then finally it makes its way back to me. Well, then by that time, I'm like, just maybe I should hit record and document this. So I put it back up to my eye. It's still there, but it's not as defined. It's like it's moving back. It's like kind of receding into the tree line. So I hit record. I film, I don't know, 10, 15 seconds of it. You can't really make out arms or legs or a head anymore, but you can kind of see like, okay, it looks like maybe a torso sitting on some legs. It does kind of maybe like move to one side, and the ground, it's not like where I could just start like walking towards it. I had to stop looking through the thermal and walk. And that's what we did. We started walking towards it. It was almost like one of those Ghostbuster, like get her, okay, there it is. What do we do? So we start walking towards it, and I had to look away, so I wouldn't fall or trip over like a branch or so. You saw the terrain, that we're walking through there. And I eventually, I would look back to try and see it again. And as soon as we started moving towards it, it disappeared. And I don't mean disappeared like poof. I mean, just I looked away, stepped over some debris, looked back, could not find it. And that's the story of the Port Chatham thermal footage. Unfortunately, if I say to this day, if I'd have hit record as soon as I saw it, it would probably be the best thermal footage probably ever recorded. But it's the curse of Bigfoot. I guess if everybody that had a camera or a thermal hit record when they were supposed to, this would have been over a long time ago. So all I got was a blob squatch, and I know a lot of people are like, oh well, sure, that's what happened. I mean, I just telling you what happened, man. I don't, that's what happened.
I get it all the time, man. I had the whole reason why I'm into all this is because when I was 9 years old, I saw something in the woods that when I was 9, had zero fucking clue what it was. Turns out the best way to define it is a Bigfoot. It wasn't as big as like what they explain, now as like these 10-foot behemoths. I think this was probably like 5 or 6 feet tall. But again, I was 9, so I can't tell you exactly. But yeah, I used to get it all the time. I still get it sometimes. But
I tell Jeremy's full of crap every day. No, you're full of crap. You were 9. You can't remember that far back.
I do, man. I do. And the funny thing is we were talking about it yesterday during the recording, is that story about the moose, that's very similar to what I saw like in real life, but I saw it with a deer. So I purposely included that in the episode yesterday because of my story. But enough about me. Right as you're wrapping up this first expedition into the Port Chatham, Portlock area, you're going to retrieve your cameras from Death Valley, and you get a call over the radio from Stephen. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, Stephen, we'd actually separated a little bit, and it was in that area where I got the thermal hit the day before. Not that exact area, but I mean close enough, within like a minute or two walking distance. And I was walking toward the camera, and Steven comes over the radio. He's like, man, I swear I just saw something walk between two trees. And so we start heading towards Steven. I didn't realize it at the time, but basically the direction we were walking was the direction that the thing he saw was walking. So like,
oh yeah,
we could have potentially walked into it. We didn't, but we didn't know it. You know, it's one of those things where we were walking right, you know, like it would have been great, I guess. Hopefully, if it, you know, didn't try and kill us, it would have been great. But yeah, he said he saw something. Described it as, it was tall. It was white, like a, I don't know if he meant like white, like albino, or white, like, you know, how rabbits turn white in the wintertime. And he said it had like almost like a mohawk, but I mean, he just saw it for like one Mississippi. Is it like went in between two trees, you know? And like I said, we were walking in the same direction it was coming in, and we didn't see it. We didn't hear anything. Of course, this isn't terrain where you're just like walking along like la 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 la. You're stepping over trees. You're walking around trees. You're ducking under branches. You know, you're stepping in holes and having to like, you know, like step out. It's very unforgiving terrain. It's not like you're just out for a stroll, you know, down a trail. There's no trails. You're just,
this isn't Kentucky.
You're getting by the best you can. A lot of crawling. Sometimes you got to crawl under trees. You got to crawl over trees. And, you know, anything that was coming towards us would have easily hurt us before it saw us and had time to hide or go in a different direction. So I'm a little jealous that Steven saw something and I didn't. But you know, like I said, that's the way it goes. Of course, he didn't get footage of what he saw either. So, you know, it's how it goes, which I'm not even sure if Steven had a camera on. I think he had a GoPro on him, but I don't think it was on at the time. And yeah, that was kind of like that. That was it. That kind of culminated the expedition where we're running out of time. Steven was paying for the boat. I think it was like a couple of grand every night we were there.
Jeez.
And that's you know, that's part of the challenge. You know, I'm 40 miles away from Port Chatham. For me to get, I don't own a boat, so for me to get there, I could probably fly to Hawaii and back in a couple of times for what it would cost for me to get a decent boat out there that could carry all my stuff and would be willing to take me out there and wait for me.
Yeah. Well, you just wait until this show gets really, really big. We'll pay for it. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, give us 10 years. An easy 10 years. We'll do it.
It feels like you can get your credit scores anywhere these days. Random websites, card statements, budgeting apps, heck, even your dog might bark out a few numbers. It's true. Credit Karma isn't the only place you can find them. But we actually do more with your scores to help you find your next financial opportunity. Like a more rewarding credit card, a game plan that helps you pay down debt faster, or a personal loan to help you save more on interest payments each month. Cha-ching! The possibilities are kinda endless. Download Intuit Credit Karma today to get started.
So when I heard that, right, the Mohawk thing, the first thing I thought about was a sagittal crest. And I was like, I wonder if he did see something, because there are some reports of Sasquatch being seen white. No telling whether or not it's due to the age of it or if they just naturally come white in some cases.
Well, I do have a little postscript to that. So there's two villages, not close to near Port Chatham, Nantiinaq and Port Graham. And after this happened, after our expedition, I started talking to some of the people over there in the villages. And I did hear that there had been a white Bigfoot, or Nantiinaq as they call it, a white Nantiinaq seen near Nantiinaq. So,
wow.
Yeah.
That's insane. That's crazy, man. Did you? It scares the shit out of me just thinking about me being a 9-year-old kid, as close as I was to one. But I mean, even as a full grown adult, if I'm seeing one and I just barely see it, just a little bit, you know, and it's one of the monsters that are said to be in the Northwest, you know, I don't know, just terrifying. Absolutely terrifying.
That's why he wants to go over to Portlock.
I do.
Do an expedition.
I do.
Well, I mean, that's my ultimate goal is I want to see one with my own eyes. And
Right.
I get every once in a while, I get somebody that'll be like, well, be careful what you wish for. And, you might just get what you want. And usually people that have maybe had like violent or scary encounters. And,
Right.
my response to that is like, people jump out of airplanes for fun, right? Like this is no different. I just want to, I just want to see it. And if it's a little dangerous, it's a little dangerous.
Yeah. Everyone likes their own drugs, right?
Yeah. I'm not going to jump out of a plane, but I'll go in the woods and look for Bigfoot.
Hell yeah. Oh man, where was I going with that? I can't remember. Anyways, so that pretty much wraps up the first expedition. Did I miss anything there?
Let's see. I told you we heard the thumping.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
We found the tracks. Mary Beth saw the tree peaker. I think that's about it. I got the thermal footage. It was a kind of a whirlwind trip. Again, we were just going in there. We didn't really know what to expect. Again, I wasn't even when I first found out we were going out there, I think I even brought like a tent and some like camping equipment because I thought we were going to be staying on the shore. I didn't realize that Stephen was going to have us stay on the boat. So, I was all for it. I was like, hell yeah, like I'll sleep out here at night. But yeah, it didn't work out that way. And we've always said like, well, the next time we go out, we're going to do that. We're going to set up a camp and we're going to take enough people to where we can have like a fire guard up and somebody's up all night, keep an eye on things.
So that kind of leads into the second expedition where you brought this crew with you, and you originally thought that you were going to be the one sleeping on shore, because you kind of were the odd man out. You were kind of a veteran with sleeping outdoors, going through your training and whatnot in the military. So you're going to kind of take one for the team, and you end up taking a cot on the boat. But that expedition was mostly due to the other camera was a little less. It didn't have as many encounters or like really really big moments, except for one. There was one really good one.
It was a little slow, and I think it was either because of the amount. I think because we had more people. That production team, I think there was at least 5 of them. Maybe there was 6 of them. I don't remember. There was you're walking through the woods with like 6-7 people. It's gonna be a circus, no matter how quiet you're trying to be. And then there was we got this shot. Can you do it one more time? And then we're like walking. It's pouring rain. We're walking down the beach, and they just keep having us walk back and forth on the beach. And it was kind of cool because I'm like, oh, I'm filming a TV show, but at the same time, I'm like, I would much rather be in the woods looking for Bigfoot. This is not doing us any good at all, So that was kind of my first brush with like filming a TV show. And the weather was really, I think, a factor in this expedition. Stephen, Adam Davies, World Explorer.
Yeah.
Stephen, Adam, and I were going to sleep on the shore. All 3 of us were. And then the camera crew was going to sleep on the boat. But the weather actually turned so sour that we decided to sleep on the boat as well. Actually, the captain was like, you guys should probably sleep on the boat because it's going to get pretty shitty. And it was kind of weird because we would be on the boat and the weather would start to clear up and we'd be like, okay, now we can go ashore and like do our filming or whatever we need to do. And as soon as we started getting our gear on, like the weather would like turn sour again. And we kind of started joking like, oh, something doesn't want us here. Like this is,
right.
Like this is the curse of Port Chatham. It doesn't want to. And it was kind of a joke at first, but then by the time we were there for like 3 or 4 days, by the time we left, I was like, there might be something to this, guys. Like it was so consistent and repeatable. Literally every time we went to get off the boat, the weather would get considerably worse. And I thought I was going to die at one point because we're in this little Zodiac, like a little inflatable boat. Well, you guys are Navy,
Oh yeah.
And we're just trying to get back to the boat. And if my fat ass hadn't been like on the front of that thing, I think it would have went over because it was bad. And I actually told my wife when I got back, I was like, I almost died. It was pretty scary, which I'm not a boat guy. I'm not a strong swimmer. Definitely wouldn't catch me in the Navy. But so every time we had to get from the boat to the shore was always a little extra terrifying for me.
There's people in the Navy that can't swim.
I can really swim.
My dad was in the Navy.
Tall.
Yeah, my dad was in the Navy. He couldn't swim.
What'd your dad do?
I don't know. He was in Vietnam. He was on a supply ship.
Okay.
Cool.
I've got a shadow box upstairs that's got his stuff in it. I'll take a picture of it, send it to you. You can tell me what he did. I think he was he was a boiler maker or boiler man? Boiler.
Working in the engine room.
Yeah,
sounds like a machinist mate, right?
Something.
I don't know. I'm not a boat guy. I'm an aviation guy.
That's true.
I ain't no boat donkey.
So let's talk about the big event, man. Let's talk about your sighting of something in a tree.
So this one's a little weird. I'm not really a woo guy. I don't think that Bigfoot is can walk through portals, or I think probably they might be able to like camouflage really well. I think a lot of times when people say like, "Oh, it just disappeared," it should have. I think probably like, well, did you look up in a tree, or maybe it just laid down? Like But this was something I can't really explain. It's probably the second strangest thing that's ever happened to me. We're in that structure, that little building, the little red cabin on the front of the book. And we're in there and we're filming some like interviews, and they were interviewing, I can't remember if it was Adam or Steve, and it was somebody else's turn. And I'm just kind of sitting towards the back of that little cabin there, and it's raining, so we're all in there trying to stay dry. And I'm just watching the tree line and just listening and trying to be quiet so they can film. Excuse me. And I was looking up in a pine tree, a fir tree, and it looked almost kind of like I'm not sure if it was just like a big drop of water, or if it was kind of something like, what do they call, like the glimmer man, like a translucent thing. And it just kind of seemed like it dropped down from like one branch, kind of like down. And it's one of those things where that happened, and I'm like, did I? It didn't look like a man. It was just a big, like, shape. And it's one of those things where that happened, and I was like, did that just happen? What was that? I didn't trust my lying eyes. I'm like,
yeah,
that's kind of weird. And it was, it had been raining, and it wasn't windy, maybe a little wind, but not enough to like move that branch the way I saw it move. And then I'm trying to rationalize it. I'm like, well, maybe there was some water pulled up above that new branch somehow, and it all come down at once. And, I'm trying to like figure this out. I'm trying to work it out in my brain. And I didn't say anything because I wasn't sure what, if anything, I'd seen. I didn't want to interrupt the filming. It was just one of those, that's a thing. What was that? Was that something? I don't think it was. And eventually it's my time to like sit down and be interviewed. And I'm sitting there and I'm talking, and it's Steven's turn to sit in the back of the cabin and stare out there. Well, at that point, like I hear him like rack a shotgun, and he's like, something's fucking out there, guys. I just heard some growling. And so we all like kind of like shuffle up there, and we're all like looking at like the Three Stooges, like all trying to look out this one little window. And none of us were like, let's go see what it is. So, yeah, that was kind of the big thing. And that happened right toward the end, right? I think that was kind of one of the last things we did before we left. And again, like we were speculating like, man, maybe something just doesn't want us here. And maybe that was kind of like the final straw. Like if these guys don't get out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've interviewed a few guys that are really into the Bigfoot woo side of things. For the most notable probably being Carter Bushard. I have no problem with the woo side of it, right? Absolutely not. I think that they do their thing and I'll do mine. But I find it hard to explain an unknown with another unknown.
Yeah, I don't think we should completely discount it and just be like, oh no, it's BS.
No, I agree.
But again, I'm not going to go and go full like, well, it's a portal, you know, like I got to
Yeah.
see a portal before I start saying there's portals.
Exactly. Yeah, I try not to bring up the topic, but the Facebook Bigfoot communities are just
Oh, did you see any wild red circles out there in your expedition?
it is so cringeworthy. It's anyways.
It's, I mean, I could go in my backyard, take a picture, post it in one of those groups and be like, do you see it? And there'll be like a half a dozen people. Yep, it's a big one. It's right there.
Yep. They'll put their own red circles over it and everything and send it back to you. Yeah, no.
Oh, it's carrying a baby.
I could take a picture of the inside of my refrigerator and I'll still get a couple back.
So, yeah, I kind of stay away from. I'm a member of some groups, but I'm just a lurker pretty much anymore. I've had some bad experiences where somebody will post something that's obviously fake. I mean, if you go to Amazon, search Bigfoot costume, and then you see like the very first result with the, that Bigfoot with the receding hairline.
Yeah.
It's like $100 costume.
Yeah.
And there are people that post that all the time.
Yeah.
And I was just like, look, here's the link to the costume. That's a costume. And people were getting mad at me.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't believe, why are you even here? And I'm like, I don't know about you. I don't like to be lied to. Like, like I don't like it when people pull hoodwinks and shenanigans on me. And I'm trying to help you out. But if that's the way, if you really want to believe, then go ahead. So I just really don't. If somebody sends me a message or asks me what I think privately, I'll have a discussion with them. But I don't publicly really like get involved and stuff like that anymore.
Yeah. I appreciate and I find it entertaining, the woo side of things. I like what they do. If you get a solid researcher such as Carter Bushart, he's really good at what he does, and he has some very, very intriguing stories. Very, very intriguing. Very interesting. And he tells them very well. I appreciate what he does with his craft. I can't do it myself.
Yeah, and I mean, I found like several times I found like one footprint in a place where I feel like maybe there should be more footprints. And I mean, I don't know what the explanation for that is. Maybe it was a flying Bigfoot. Maybe it went through a portal. Maybe an alien like picked them up. I don't know. But again, I'm not gonna go there until I see something that makes me until the evidence takes me in that direction.
Yeah. Yep. 100%. If I come across a Bigfoot who's mind speaking to me right in the middle of the woods, and I'm like clear as day hearing this, I could be easily swayed for sure, 100%. But it has to happen, like you said.
Yeah.
Cool, man. So, what else can you tell us about the area and the Nantiinaq?
Oh, the Nantiinaq. Well, that's the local native name for the hairy man or the bushman or Bigfoot. And they say there's some really cool local native legends and lore surrounding it. The name Nantiinaq, they say it doesn't translate well. It says, I've heard it means giant hairy thing. I've heard it means, scary thing or, terrible, big, terrible thing.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard it means, Bigfoot. So it doesn't really there's not like a literal translation to it, I don't think. And I think that's kind of cool. It's kind of ambiguous. It's almost like, we don't know what the hell it is either, because, a lot of people in the Bigfoot community will say, they'll be like, oh, the natives know, what Bigfoot is. They know what Bigfoot is. And I always kind of like counter that argument. I'm like, no, I don't think they really know what it is either. No more than we do. They have more awareness of it.
Yeah.
But as far as like, they know what it is and where it came from and what its motivations are, I don't really think they do. And that's not, I'm not saying anything detracting about them or their culture or anything like that. I think it's just the truth. It's they have their theories and legends about what they are, but I don't think anybody really knows. And they'll say he comes when the fog comes in. They use him a lot in their, don't go out in the woods when it's foggy. The Nantiinaq will get you.
Like a
kind
boogeyman.
of the folklore you see amongst, we got to protect our women and children, or the Nantiinaq's going to get them. You see that with a lot of different native legends and well, just legends worldwide, really, with things in the water or things in the forest that are going to get you.
Mm-hmm.
There's another local tribe. They have something called the Nantiinaq, which is very similar, and that translates in their language to the ones that steal us. So there you have something very much like Bigfoot that gets accused of abduction, which you hear a lot about with, in the Bigfoot community, people saying that Bigfoot is responsible for the abduction or murder of people, missing 411 stuff and stuff like that. That's also in this general area on the Kenai Peninsula. And so, it's just something out that, like I said, I don't think they really know what it is any more than we do, but they just have more awareness of it. It's a part of their culture. They have their stories that they pass on. But again, in my experiences talking with them, it's pretty much 50-50, where some of them will believe it or they've had an encounter, and then the other ones are just like, nah, there's no such thing. It's just a boogeyman story.
Mm-hmm. Interesting stuff. Yeah, the first thing that pops in my mind, when you hear about Bigfoot and kidnapping, obviously, is the Oliver Osman story. Eventually, one day, we're going to cover that, Jake. We've been talking about it for 3 years now. I'm sure the listeners would love to hear that story. It's awesome.
Where he gets rolled up in a sleeping bag and stuff, and
yeah, he feeds the Bigfoot a bunch of chew. Yeah, it's great. Love it. So as I was wrapping up your book, I found that you have a couple other books out there. I haven't ordered it yet. It's on my list of things to order, but the Bigfoot or Squatch Cop, right? Yeah. That's something I'm going to go ahead and grab. And then you also have Alaskan Cop Stories, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So
there's a
Cop
Story one, and there's Squatch Cop.
Squatch Cop. Yeah. Love it. No, I'm definitely grabbing the Squatch Cop one for sure. So that just leads me to believe that you have other things to talk about other than Port Chatham, Portlock, huh?
I mean, I've been several places looking for Bigfoot. Like I said, I've had an interesting life. One of my favorite story, again, it's almost, I guess you could say it's a woo story.
Ooh.
Is when I was in Eastern Washington. I've told this story a few times. We were, again, I was with Steven. Maybe I need to stay away from Steven because it seems like weird shit happens when I'm like hanging out with him. We were in Eastern Washington and we were filming Bigfoot Encounters of the Pacific Northwest. And we were in this area that was just, it was, Jake, it was almost like the campground you were at, where there's knocks and screams. Mm-hmm. I mean, there was just stuff going on. Like we're unloading the vehicle to set up camp, and there's like knocks on the hill in front of the campsite, oh,
that's sick. Yeah.
And it went on like almost all weekend. And I was it was the last night, and I was kind of like, man, like I want to see something. Why, mm-hmm. And we walked up this logging road, and it was getting to be dusk. It wasn't dark. And we walked up this logging road, and we turned around, we were walking back, and I was like, I'm going to let the group get ahead of me, and I'm going to follow behind by myself a little ways. And, cause I'm like, if something's following us, maybe I can catch up, or it'll catch up to me. Plus I had to take a leak, and I was like, well, you guys go ahead. I'll be along here in a couple minutes. And at the time I'm thinking like, I just want to see what's going on. I want to see if there's anything following us. I think this will be my best chance if I'm not with a large group to see something. I'm not thinking like this is exactly how like every missing 411 story starts.
Yeah.
So I let them get ahead. I wait a couple of minutes. I take a leak on the side of the road, and I say road. I mean, it's not in use. It's old logging road. And I've got my back to the tree line, and I've got my thermal, the same thermal I had in Port Chatham, and maybe it's the thermal, not Steven, that's causes all this weird shit to happen. And I'm therming the other side of the road, and I'm just chilling. And behind me, I mean, it sounds like it's like at my ear level, probably 4 or 5 feet behind me, I hear,
whoa,
like a whisper.
Mm-hmm.
and it was just like 4 or 5 syllables, you know. Couldn't make out what it said or if it was even words. Spin around, look, don't see anything. Throw up the therm, don't see anything. Looking back on it, I never looked up. So I don't know. Just take that for what it's worth.
They say that one of the biggest mistakes that Bigfoot researchers going on expeditions do is that they don't look up.
Yeah. I never looked up. But I mean, it sounded like it was right behind me. So I look, therm, and I mean, it was thick forest, but from where it sounded, I mean, you know, acoustics are weird, but it sounded like it should have been like right there. And I'm looking, and I just have this weird, like, I mean, it was like somebody flipped a switch, and I'm like scared. And I mean, you know, I've been in the military, you know, I've been a police officer, you know, and I'm not bragging. I've been in some shit, you know, like I've been in situations where I was like, oh, this might be it for beans, you know, like, you know, like I'm used to being in stressful situations. So to just have that happen, just where I was like, ooh, I'm scared. It was kind of weird. It was like an unnatural fear. And I don't know if that was just my body's reaction. Like, I've never been in a situation. I have no frame of reference for this. You know, if it was a guy with a knife or a gun, hey, we can handle that. We know what to do. This is something completely different. So I don't know if it was that or if it was something else. I don't know if I got like zapped or something with infrasound. So not seeing anything. I start heading down the road. I don't run, but I quickly catch up with the group. And I tell them what happened. And I'm trying to rationalize, like, well, you know, I did have my backpack on. Maybe my water bottle, I had a plastic water bottle back there. Maybe somehow it got jostled and it like released some air or something. I'm trying to like figure out what happened. I'm trying to deduce what the sound was I heard. So I'm like pulling my water bottle out and squeezing it, and it's airtight. Nothing's coming out of there. I can't figure it out. Still have this irrational fear. We get in a truck, drive back to the campsite. It was our last night there. Still scared. Get to the campsite, still scared. Eventually, everybody but me and Will Ulmer. Will Ulmer is Grassman58 on YouTube. He's a solid dude. He's a good researcher. We stay up, and Will's like, you know, I feel a little uneasy too. He goes, and I don't know if he was feeding off of me or if he actually, you know, like if he had reasons to be uneasy. But I was like, I feel like something's going to happen tonight, and he's like, I do too. And we're sitting by the fire. We fed the fire all night long. And I just kept having this. I felt like whatever I was scared of was like over here on this hill. Like I kept thinking like the Bigfoot were going to come over that hill like the Zulu Nation and just massacre us. And finally, you know, we sat around the campfire. I had a pistol. Will had a shotgun. And finally about 3:00 in the morning, we hear this boom. And it wasn't a gunshot. It wasn't a tree knock. It was just this big boom. And Will looks at me and he goes, is it just me or did the atmosphere just change? And I'm like, dude, I'm not scared anymore. I mean, it was like somebody flipped a switch and I wasn't scared anymore.
Was it winter?
No, it was about this time of year. It was kind of like August, September-ish.
You said this was in Washington?
Yeah.
Huh.
And like I said, it was like somebody flipped a switch. I wasn't scared anymore. I was like, well, I guess I'll go to bed now and get some sleep because I had to drive everybody out of there the next day. And I went and got in my tent, went to sleep. But that's the strangest thing I think that's ever happened. That was number one. Number two was the thing on Port Chatham in the tree. But that was the number one weirdest, like most unexplainable thing that's ever happened to me.
That's
and
nice.
I don't know if it was Bigfoot related. I don't know if it was my mind playing tricks on me. I don't know what it was, but it was freaky as hell.
Well, the zapping phenomenon, that is something that gets reported quite a bit, especially within the woo community.
Yeah.
I do know a couple flesh and blooders that you know will say that they can zap. And I mean, that's, you know, psychic phenomenon right there.
Tigers and elephants can use infrasound.
Yeah.
It's not beyond, you know, it's not woo. I mean, it is woo, but it's not woo. It's a actual thing.
Right. It's just outside of our abilities to recognize and properly translate it, you know, into useful information.
And, you know, there's mountain lions there too. I don't know if mountain lions can use it or not. But if tigers can, maybe mountain lions can.
Good possibility.
And we had seen some mountain lion tracks earlier in our trek up that hill. Well, actually, it was kind of weird. We saw tracks of every animal. We saw moose tracks, elk tracks, bear tracks, deer tracks, turkey tracks. I know I'm leaving something out. Like we literally saw every animal that lived in those woods. We saw their tracks on that road. And I remember we found the mountain lion tracks, and I'm like, "What are those?" And Will's like, "That's mountain lion." And I remember thinking like, "Oh, I don't know how to deal with mountain lions. Like moose and bear I'm good with, but I don't know anything about mountain lions." That's a little weird.
Kitty cats are scary, man.
Yeah.
Jake, you got anything?
Man, you were exploring in like a hunting guide's dream. All those tracks in one spot. It's like, let's go.
Yeah, it was crazy because we were all like, and they were all going in one direction. So we're walking up this logging road was kind of like up a hill, and all those tracks were going down the hill.
Oh.
And that was kind of weird. We're like, was there like some kind of mass migration or something chasing everything down this hill?
Here's your sign.
Yeah, right.
That was probably a good indication that we should have turned around.
I'm glad you didn't. You probably had that experience because you didn't.
Maybe. Yeah. I don't know. I've been back to that area. Not that exact same area, but the same general like camping area. And they've logged it. They've started logging it.
Yeah.
So it's just not the same. And actually, because I live in Alaska, there's plenty of room up here. I'm not one of those guys that's like, we have to protect the Bigfoot before they're all gone, because they've got plenty of room up here.
Right.
But being down there and seeing that, it was kind of like, oh, this is not good. Like if they're in there, they're going somewhere else now, or they're gonna die. Like that was kind of made me a little sad. All that area that we had been researching in for that documentary is gone now. It's all been logged, and
that sucks.
Last time I was there, and I wanted to go back there because I wanted to spend the night there by myself, because I wanted to kind of like face my fears, because I'd never really been scared like that before. And I was like, I got to go back and I got to spend the night by myself. And I did it, and it was fine. Nothing happened. Although one of the nights while I was out there, I did hear some wolves off in the distance, but
Nice.
nothing squatchy. But again, they'd come in and start logging, so they were probably long gone by then.
Yeah.
That's funny that you mentioned the missing 411. It's like, yeah, I saw Larry back there taking a leak, and now it's just his jacket. He's gone. He just gets snatched, just taken in.
So, some of those cases are so weird because you just hear about like, oh yeah, he's right there, and then you turn around, he's gone.
Yep. Yeah, no, that's crazy, man. Great stuff. Yeah, Jeremy, as it's often the case. So Jeremy read the book. He set the whole thing up right. He didn't actually allow me to know what the topic was because he wanted to surprise me with it yesterday, right? And get my opinions on it, and then come over here and pretty much be the bystander, the layman in this conversation, right? Just being reactionary and stuff, and as questions come up. But man, I'm gonna have to snatch up your book and read it too, because I'm really like, this is cool. This is really cool. And I can see why Jeremy is so hyped up and he wants to go do it too if we get the opportunity.
Yeah. I wanted to commend you on your comment you made about how Port Chatham doesn't fit the typical ghost town stereotype. Usually you see like a town built up around a resource. Mm-hmm. They deplete the resource and then the town's abandoned. Port Chatham definitely doesn't fit that mold. The logging, the trees are still there. They could still be logging. The fish were still there. They could still be fishing. So I think that's one of the things that kind of maybe adds to the mystique of the area, is because it just doesn't fit the typical ghost town mold. And then of course, you get people that, they find out like, well, maybe, the story wasn't quite like it. There's this Bigfoot massacre theory going on that the Bigfoot just murdered tons of people in the town. And once people find out that's not necessarily the truth, they're like, oh, well, then it's bullshit. It's that, we've reached a point in our society where it has to be this way or it has to be this way. It can't be a little bit of this and a little bit of that,
right.
Maybe both sides have some good points. People find out like, oh, what, there was no, there wasn't like tens of hundreds of people murdered in this town. Well, then there's no Bigfoot. That's bullshit. All it takes is, a couple of sightings, and we've certainly got those.
Right.
You know, Bigfoot doesn't necessarily have to be a rampaging beast. Although if there was a perfect storm for Bigfoot to become violent, I think it was in Port Chatham. You had the logging, you had the fishing. They were taking the resources. You're at the southern tip of a peninsula. There's nowhere to go. You know, it's certainly possible that they backed the Bigfoot tribe, family, troop, whatever you want to call it, into a corner, and there was some retaliation.
Yeah. No, we
broke that whole thing down.
We
in
did.
just that manner, and my comment was, it's like, well, you know, because he had mentioned that there was a fire and all kinds of stuff, and I was just like, well, you know, both things can be true at the same time. There could be a fire, depending on the season. It's like, is it even worth trying to rebuild this right now? And then also having either let's call it a couple, you know, issues, missing people, you know, a couple dead people type stuff, whether that was a serial killer was just in the area and he's like blaming the Bigfoot or something like that. But then you had the native legends surrounding that sort of stuff. So it would have kind of people might have gravitated towards, you know, this idea that the Sasquatch were picking people off type stuff. I was like, either way you look at it, you know, like you just said, resources weren't gone. I was like, this could have just been you know what? Screw it. We just can't deal with it anymore. Like,
there is an article going around that just, you know, grinds my gears, because there's this guy out there that's like, the reason Port Chatham was abandoned is because the road was built that connected Anchorage to Homer. And that is the biggest bunch of bullshit I've ever heard in my life. If the road killed Port Chatham, then why do Seldovia, Nantiinaq, and Port Graham still exist? There's still 3 villages over there.
Hey, we don't do logic here on this show. All right.
Yeah.
So,
so why would the road kill one village, but not the other 3? It's flawed logic. It's a guy that I don't think he's ever been to Alaska. And he's just like, I'll prove there's no Bigfoot. Oh, look, there was a highway built right around the time that town was abandoned. That must be it. Yeah. But yeah, it's an interesting story. I'm actually surprised there hasn't been some kind of movie or something made about it. It would make an amazing story.
It would.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, there's not really that many good Bigfoot movies out there, and this could be one. It definitely could be.
I don't know, that one. Man, it came out a couple years ago. The Man Who Killed Hitler and then Killed the Bigfoot.
Yeah.
On Netflix. You ever seen that, Jake?
What?
I'm not joking. That's the title of the movie. It's on Netflix. You got to see it. It's pretty good.
It's kind of a little bit of a B movie. I want a high budget. I want a good quality, like the Godzilla movies.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Like the recent Godzilla movies with the Monarch. I mean, you could do a spinoff from that with the Monarch looking into Bigfoot. You know, it's kind of like Godzilla, only just a little smaller.
I'm a big monster movie guy. Aliens and monsters, right? And I tell Jeremy all the time, it's like, gosh, they need more monster movies. It's like everyone wants to talk about the demons and all this crap and all the murders and everything. I want more monster movies.
Yep.
You know, like if we could, for me, if it was a Bigfoot movie along the same lines of the last Wolfman movie that came out.
Have you seen Exists?
No.
Okay, Jake, you gotta watch Exists. It's, in my opinion, which is not worth much, it's the best modern Bigfoot movie.
I gotta see which one it is because I've seen so many of them. Oh yeah. I've seen this. This is on Amazon.
Yeah, it's really good.
I've seen this. It is good. It is very good. Yep.
It's kind of a found footage, Blair Witch-ish type, but the quality, the suit quality is amazing. The Bigfoot looks really great. The story's pretty good. I mean, it's not Shakespeare, but
yeah, I'll check it out.
It's all right, you know.
It's dope.
All right, Sci-Fi Channel, you hear this? We don't want you. We need somebody who knows what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, there was that book that Max Brooks wrote, Devolution or whatever it was.
That was pretty good.
and they were talking about making a movie into a movie. And then I think it fell through, or it got kind of like, they're like, yeah, we're not going to make this. We're going to make something else.
Did you read that book?
Yeah, I've got it back here.
Yeah, man.
It was a really slow start. Once it got going, it was good, but
I read so many fictional books about Bigfoot too. Jog my memory here. It's either the one where they have like this little community.
Yeah, Green Loop.
That's it. That's the one.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That was a good one. That was a good one.
I felt it was, once it started going, it was good. Like the last 100 pages, or no, probably not even that. Last 75 pages were awesome, but building to that point was a little slow.
I think that they could make a better movie out of that than they did out of World War Z.
I've never seen World War Z. Zombie movies are okay, but they're not really my bag.
Well, World War Z was originally a Max Brooks novel, but the novel is nothing like the movie.
I do know that.
Yeah. The novel is just a whole bunch of like news clips and articles and that kind of stuff.
Hilarious.
What's that?
That the man who killed Hitler and then Bigfoot. I was sitting there looking at it. I was like, "Is that Sam Elliott?" And I clicked on it, went into the IMDb, and I was just like, "Holy crap! It's freaking Sam Elliott. That's hilarious." I'll totally watch it.
You gotta watch it.
I'll watch it just for that mustache, bro.
No, good stuff, man. All right, so before we wrap up for the night, let's talk about what can the listeners of the Infinite Rabbit Hole, how can they find you? Talk about Alice Squatch, man. Let's do this.
Yeah, so I've got a little podcast. I don't have like a regular set schedule. I kind of put it out whenever I feel like it. You can listen to it on all the major podcatchers, Spotify, iTunes, all that good stuff. And you can go to the website. It's alasquatchpodcast.com. It's like Alaska and Sasquatch, ALASQUATCH. You can go to the website. You can purchase my books. You can have them personalized and autographed if you buy them from the books. If that's not your thing, you can buy them from Amazon. I know a lot of people love Amazon for the free shipping. I live in Alaska. I cannot give you free shipping. I'm sorry. Yeah, I've got the usual links. I've got the Instagram. I'm on the Facebook. I'm so old. The Facebook. I'm on the Twitter, or no, X. Yeah. I'm on X. But under everything, just Alasquatch or Alasquatch Podcast is pretty much what I'm under. I throw out, I think I'm one of the first Bigfoot memers. I make a lot of Bigfoot memes and throw them up on Facebook and Instagram. Some of it might hurt if you're sensitive. They might hurt your feelings a little bit. But I like to make fun of some of the stuff in the Bigfoot community that kind of irritates me. There's one where I have the Dipper from Gravity Falls, where he like looks at a piece of paper and goes, this is worthless.
Yeah.
I have one where he's like, it's like, "Dear Bigfoot researcher, I know where Bigfoot is and I see him all the time. However, I can't offer you any proof because reasons." And then Dipper's like, "This is worthless." Because that drives me crazy, where people are like, "Oh, I have the greatest footage of Bigfoot you've ever seen. It's better than the PG film. But I can't show it to you. I'm sorry."
Yeah.
It's like, well, don't even tell me about it.
Bigfoot comes over every Friday night to play checkers with me, but you can't meet him because he said so. Sorry.
All right. Well, we just followed you on everything, and also I subscribed to the podcast. I'll give it a listen, man.
Awesome. I'm gonna try and get one here out pretty soon. You guys know Chook's Outdoor Adventures?
Nope.
I think he started out as like a gun tuber, like he does gun videos and stuff, and he's kind of started to get into like Bigfoot. And I was just hanging out with him the other day. We were filming some stuff, so those should go up pretty soon.
Cool, man. I'll look for it for sure. Beans. By the way, how'd you get the nickname?
Well, it's not a very exciting story. So when I was in like elementary school, the Fox network came out. There was they had like Married with Children and 21 Jump Street and a couple other shows. Well, one of those shows that they first rolled out with was called Beans Baxter. And it was about this kid. His dad was a spy, and he gets like kidnapped by the evil spy organization, and the spy network that he worked for, they recruit Beans, his son, to help find him. So Beans was like a teenage spy, and he was like looking for his dad, and his last name was Baxter, and my last name is Baxter. So people started calling me Beans, and it kind of stuck, and it didn't help that my dad's name's Larry and my name's Larry. So it was kind of a way to differentiate between us.
Mm-hmm.
So it just stuck, and it's just, it's like the dude, you know, like the big, it's like, I'm Beans, you know, like I'm the Beans. And people call me Larry, and I'm like, who?
Oh,
you know?
man. Well,
That's
man,
awesome.
do you got anything else that you want to plug real quick?
No, man, just, I hope everybody, enjoyed our talk. You know, I love talking about Bigfoot in Alaska. It's two of my favorite things. You know, just, be careful, what you consume out there in the Bigfoot world. Cause there's a lot of good stuff. There's a lot of entertaining stuff, but there's a lot of stuff out there that, they're just, not, very honest with you.
Couldn't have said it better.
Yeah.
Jake, you got anything for him before we go?
No, I'm just stoked to have you here. That was very entertaining. I appreciate it. And
Yeah.
It'd be
All
cool
right.
if we could get access to that area, but I'm not gonna hold my breath.
Doesn't mean we won't try.
Yeah.
No,
People
we'll
ask
try.
me all the time if I would go back, and, you know, I say I don't have any plans to, but if the right circumstances aligned, you know, I would do it. But I don't really want to go back for like a day trip or something.
Right.
Like if I'm going to go back, I want to like do it right.
Right.
And go back with a good team and,
Yep.
you know, a lot of resources and people, and spend multiple days on the ground and just, you know, do it right.
Right on, man.
Sure.
All right. Well, that has been another episode of the Infinite Rabbit Hole podcast.
Do you guys have do you do rabbit ears? Is that the
Oh, no.
Is that the official rabbit hole? Is that the official rabbit hole handshake?
You got to make antlers, man.
Yeah.
It's the
Look,
jackalope.
We're not furries, all right?
No, we actually
Not
don't.
yet.
We don't post the video. We don't post video.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We used to back when we were on the Paranormal Network. We got recruited by the Paranormal Network back when that was a thing. And we used to do the video, but we haven't really done it since.
This is just so that we're not cutting each other off. We can get those.
No, I completely
nonverbal cues and
understand.
stuff.
I always like to do video,
Right.
because
Yeah.
you can never, like, you end up talking over people when you can't see them.
Exactly.
Or, you know, if you want to say something, you could be like, I got something to say.
Yeah, right.
Raise your hand. But yeah, no, I completely understand.
All right. Well, that has been another episode of the Infinite Rabbit Hole podcast. Until next time, travelers, we'll see you in the next fork in the path of the Infinite Rabbit Hole. Goodbye.
Bye.
There, you got to say bye.
Bye.
There it is.
I would like to thank you once again for tuning in to the Infinite Rabbit Hole podcast. Please make sure to give us a follow and one of those beautiful 5-star ratings on your podcast player of choice. If you would like to join the conversation and stay up to date on all things Infinite Rabbit Hole, head on over to Facebook and search for the Infinite Rabbit Hole Facebook group. You'll know it's us when you see the logo. If you would like to help contribute to the cause, there are a few ways to do so. First, head on over to anchor.fm/Infinite Rabbit Hole and click on the subscribe button, where for $5 a month you'll get access to all our old episodes that will never see the free spotlight ever again. It's horrible stuff, but if you're into that kind of thing, then go check it out. Second, head on over to InfiniteRabbitHole.com and click on the IRH merch shop tab and grab yourself a sweet t-shirt, sticker, or whatever else you see that you wouldn't mind owning. Until next time, travelers, I'm Jeremy, and I'll see you at the next fork in the path of the Infinite Rabbit Hole. Bye.